We are Fandom Roulette.
Two nerds with a passion for
History,
video games,
tabletop games,
and, well, really any nerdy stuff that comes into our lives.
While we might not be able to name every ship classification in Star Wars,
Or every Pokemon.
or every spell in the player's handbook,
Well, one of us can.
we're still here to have a good time. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
This is Fandom Roulette, a podcast where we talk about a myriad of nerdy things, including history, our video games, tabletop role-playing games, and what other nerdy stuff we think of. So, Cody, any nerdy stuff you've been up to this week, my friend?
This week, oh boy, no, I'm mostly doing house stuff. I just got a house, so
Whoa.
not putting that address on here, but
You, Mr. Homeowner.
yeah, so I've been doing a lot of that, but in my off time, in very typical fashion, one of my D&D groups kind of had to splinter for a little bit, or like put a pause on our main campaign.
Oh.
Because scheduling conflicts and things like that.
Sure,
So
being an adult's hard.
yeah, for sure. So instead of like just completely like saying sayonara to that group, we're kind of hodgepodging some other friends that are like kind of interested in the in D&D, and we're starting a kind of lawful, maybe neutral evil like campaign where they're playing as like a budding mercenary company where they're just taking odd jobs and shit like that and seeing where it goes.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we just did our first session. There were a bunch of goofballs. Two of them are playing Kenku, so
Yeah.
so it's a lot of them just repeating each other or repeating what I say back to me. So it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I found Kenku surprisingly difficult to play the one time I played it as a joke.
Yeah, I think a personal sidebar. I like Kenku. I think that's a fun style to play, but I think you need some like pre-planning basic like things to say in
sure.
your like yes, no, stop, those kinds of things, and having
You
a
need
way
to have
to
basic communication skills, which, to
Right.
be fair, Kenku do have.
Yeah, so like the thing about Kenku is like they have this thing called mimicry where they can't like actually learn a language, but they can understand what things mean and copy them almost perfectly. So one of the kind of advice things in like the Volo's guide where they bring Kenku into the light is like, if your character's bored of being in an area, you can like have your Kenku mimic the sound of a dull bell ringing and basically be like, this is the sound. It sounds really boring. So like people can understand that like you're bored as fuck. Or like, I know we had a Kenku who got tired of trying to figure out new ways to like repeat things. So they would just say the thing they wanted, but then at the very end go in another person's voice. So that ended up being a thing. I don't usually like at that point, like I don't really enforce the mimicry thing. Like, I feel like if you're a Kenku who is adventuring, you have enough in your arsenal to say what you want without like being clueless. Like, sure, you might not be able to do everything, but like you should be able to do like the common stuff like yes, no, I want to buy something, point at things, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my thing when I tried playing Kenku was I did try to vary between 4 or 5 different voices.
Yeah.
Which was a fun challenge for sure. But
yeah, I see, and actually one of our characters does this already in sort of a way. It's kind of our in the game that you and I play, where I'm the DM, one of our characters is a warlock who's basically got a table for whenever they want to say something that's like overtly like happy, overtly positive in a potentially non-positive like situation, and they just roll a d20. I think that's like something a Kenku should have, is like a chart where it's like, these are the things that I know and I can like resort to in that situation.
Yeah.
But that being said, mostly just preparation for Friday's campaign and then a lot of house stuff. So,
Very cool.
what nerdy stuff have you been up to?
There are two big things I'd like to talk about. The first one is that they're both media related things.
Yes.
Over the weekend, season 2 of Amazon's original series, The Tick, dropped.
I saw a commercial for that, and I was going to tell you, but I figured you already knew.
Yeah. I was a huge fan of the Patrick Warburton Tick from like 2001. Which if you can like find it, it's I think like 10 to 12 just like gloriously like bad episodes, like not bad, but like not good bad. Like it was very cheap. It was very much done on the cheap. So like, you know, a lot of the fight sequences are done off screen, and it's more like a superhero like Seinfeld, where it's like they're sitting around on rooftops like drinking beers and complaining about what it's like to be a superhero.
Yeah.
And then this one, it's a little bit higher budget, so like you actually do have some action and things like that, but at its core it's still pretty much the same. It follows the adventures of the Tick and Arthur Everest. Arthur is a neurotic accountant who finds this suit that gives him the ability to fly and makes him look like a rabbit, but it's supposed to be a moth. And then the Tick is this big, blue, super strong, almost indestructible superhero that has amnesia. And all he knows is that he's a superhero, and he does not know anything about his life before he met Arthur. So like, it's a good time. I'm about halfway through the season. The thing I like the most about it, I was talking to a friend about it, is it really looks like Ben. So the Tick is like a satirical comedy series. It was first started for like, it was like a promotion for like a local comic book shop in I think like Milwaukee or something like that, where he was kind of making fun of like gritty, you know, comic books from like the, you know, the 90s and things like that. And then in a way this one is also kind of making fun of like the gritty, like, you know, DC, sometimes Marvel, and then sometimes CW television programs.
Yeah,
so, like,
or just Preacher.
Or just Preacher, yeah. There's a character named like Overkill who like wears a lot of like black leather, and at the end of season 1, minor spoiler alert, at the end of season 1, the Tick like makes him make a vow that he's not going to kill people anymore.
Damn.
So they can team up. And then at the beginning of season 2, like Overkill comes to the apartment and he's like, Tick, you need to get rid of the vow because I can never break a vow, but I just need to kill. And so it's like, that's just the kind of humor that you get in it. It's a good time. Then the other one is, on like a whim, I bought Aquaman on DVD.
Yes.
And it was amazing.
Nice. Was it pretty good for I assume you're talking about the new one, or like the DC with that big burly sexy man.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Or as my sister called him accidentally, Jason Mimosa.
You know, that's a pretty good nickname if you're gonna have one.
I'd like to drink a tall pitcher of that in the morning. Yeah. So yeah, I loved it. It was, I will say, as we were watching it, my sister was like, I don't want to insult you guys, but I thought this movie was supposed to be good. And we were like, yeah, it's more like a Flash Gordon good than like a good, if that makes sense.
It's not a cinematic masterpiece, but it's enjoyable enough.
Exactly. Yeah. It enjoyed it. As I'd read a review of it, and I would say this is pretty accurate, where it was like, it kind of felt like being thrown into like season 3 of an anime where like you're not quite sure what's going on, but like you're still being entertained enough. The last act was like a CGI mess, which was where you had guys riding on like sharks and seahorses.
Yeah,
and
you know, as you do when you're underwater.
It was amazing. I loved it.
So what's this? This is probably a sidebar that we've never ever done before. But
Sure.
like, what's the deal with Aquaman and the people who live underwater? Like, are they humans who gained the ability to swim underwater, or were they like a magical like super tech race that like learned how to do that? Like, what's the deal? How can they
Yes.
swim and breathe underwater?
Okay. So, I don't know if this is comics canon, but this is Aquaman the movie canon.
Good.
Atlantis was a place, and it was led by King Atlan.
No, and he just was like,
And
"Hey guys, this is Cody Land."
yeah, kind of, right? So it'd be
Okay.
like, welcome to Jotopolis.
Yeah, love it.
And then they were technologically advanced, so like there's this shot of their like steampunk universe, and he was like going to like he put his like trident into this machine that was supposed to like save them, but then like I guess the gods got angry and like split Atlantis up into like 7 nations. And so there's the Jason Momoa Atlantis kingdom, where they're humans who learned how to breathe underwater. And then royalty can also breathe on the land also. So that's pretty cool.
Oh shit, they like reversed themselves.
Yeah, kind of. Well, no, it was the magic of the machine. That's what the movie explains. It was the magic of the machine.
So they just went
them.
magic. I don't have to explain shit.
Kind of, because we're about to get weirder. So then there's like the Zoxians, I think is how they pronounce it, which they were like redhead Aquamans. Then there was
Little Mermaid.
Kind of. Yeah, pretty much. Then there was the Fisherman Kingdom, where they turned into like fish with tails and stuff. And then there was the Brine Kingdom, which is they turned into gigantic crab men. Then there was the Trench Kingdom, where they turned into like scary deep sea fangly fish.
Oh, cool. So like some people were like, "No, we just humans underwater," but then the others were like, "Well, we can't really live down here unless we're like giant, disgusting abominations of society."
And they never explained why that happened.
Nice. But... Well, I'd like to imagine that the machine is also radioactive, and it just like,
Sure. And then the last one was the Deserter Kingdom, which
and they're wait, I know what they do. They make delicious desserts.
No, they died because they're under the Sahara Desert.
Damn it.
And so of course, if you're able to get 4 of the 6 under your command, then you of course become the Ocean Master. And that's because basically the Deserter Kingdom doesn't exist anymore, and no one knows what to do with the Trench Kingdom because they're horrible fangly fish.
I mean, that's fair. That's a fair point.
So basically it's like there's 3 kingdoms that are like pretty chill with one another, and then you just have to like convince the stubborn crab barbarians of the Brine Kingdom to hang out with you. It's
man, you just described like pretty much every like B movie superhero plot like ever. Yeah. It's like it's convoluted. There's no real rhyme or reason. They just wanted to like. It sounds like me when I was like 15 and I was like, I want to make an edgy water story and I got to make all these like kingdoms and I remember Atlantis. I had that, and then Aquaman.
It was very similar to when I was developing my own mythology, where every one of the zodiac signs had its own kingdom.
I like that idea. I love taking stuff that like sorta kinda exists, but then like turning it on its head. I was in for a brief moment I was in a D&D campaign where someone like took their idea of what Arthurian legend was, and we were playing in basically the aftermath of those books, plural.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of like stories that have been mishmashed together and things.
Yeah,
like that,
and so we were playing in basically kind of the apocalypse after, or maybe not apocalypse, but basically what happens after that.
That's actually a super rad idea.
And I was Frankenstein. We got to be anyone we wanted, so I was an orc barbarian who was literally just Frankenstein.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, Hollywood, do that instead of trying to reboot Arthur for like the millionth time. But anyways, shall we jump into the history section?
Let's do it.
All right, so this season I'm talking about famous last stands
Or famous lies told by historians across the globe.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's what history kind of is if you think about it.
I mean, I was taking a jab at the fact that the 100-Year War wasn't 100 years, and I'm still mad about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what lies are you going to tell me this week?
Well, this week we're going to be talking about the Battle of, apologize in advance, but this is how I would pronounce it. Kollaa? It's Kollaa. Which is a battle that took place basically over the entirety of the Winter War.
I bet you it wasn't even all winter.
I mean, Finland's mostly winter, so.
Oh, well, shit. Someone told the truth this week, but I've got my eye on you.
All of history.
All of history.
So anyway, so the Battle of Kollaa is a battle that took place during the majority of the Winter War, which was a military conflict between the Soviet Union and Finland that began in 1939, 3 months after the outbreak of World War II, and then ended about 3.5 months later with the Moscow Peace Treaty on the 13th of March in 1940. So the League of Nations deemed the attack illegal and expelled the Soviet Union from the organization. And basically, I'll give a brief overview of this history of this war, and then we'll talk about the Battle of Kollaa. So, basically, at the beginning of World War II, the Soviet Union signed basically a non-aggression pact with Adolf Hitler, basically saying like, hey, like you do your thing, we'll do our thing, we won't mess with one another. And so then the Soviets decided that they wanted to get some of that Finnish territory, and they demanded other, concessions, that Finland cede substantial border territory for land elsewhere. They tried to claim that this was for protecting their capital of Leningrad from the Finnish border, and basically Finland refused, so the USSR invaded the country. Many sources conclude that the Soviet Union had basically decided that they're going to take over all of Finland and establish a puppet government. And there are some secret evidence of this, but other sources argue against the idea of a full Soviet conquest. But anyway, this doesn't matter, because basically the tiny nation of Finland is able to push back the gigantic Red Army from taking over. And a big matter of this is Kollaa. So, basically, the Finnish forces of the 12th Division were able to successfully repel the Red Army because the Soviets were prepared to proceed along roads, and the area around Kollaa had very few roads, and all of them were guarded by Finnish troops. Also, the Soviets were finding it difficult to proceed cross country because they did not have skis.
Man, Who would have thought that war was lost because of skis?
Right? Do you ever watch the Winter Olympics, Cody?
I don't typically, but I do know the sport in which you speak of.
I think it's called like biathlon or whatever.
Yeah.
Where you cross-country ski and then you shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much developed by the Finns.
Well, yeah, because they won. They outsmarted and outlasted. Well,
yeah.
I mean, you tell me now, but TLDR.
This battle basically lasted from December 7th, 1939, so about a month after the battle began, all the way to the end of the war on March 13th, 1940. And it's estimated that during the battle, the Red Army fired almost 40,000 artillery units at some defense lines during a single day, whereas the Finnish artillery could only fire about 1,000 rounds per day at the very most. And despite being greatly outnumbered, the Finnish 12th Division was able to stop the Red Army pretty much this entire time. Now, the Red Army was able to penetrate the Finnish defense lines in Kollaa several times, but the Finns were able to systematically counterattack and restore the entirety of their defenses. So the Finnish defense came close to collapse at the very end of the war, but they were able to hold off until basically March 13th when the war ended. And then as a result, the commander of the 12th Division of the Finnish army considered abandoning the main defense lines at Kollaa. However, the news from the sector was that there was not yet alarming to do this. So as news of the concluded peace treaty, they reached the front, and those orders were canceled, so they were able to hold their position till the end of the hostilities. Now, there's two really cool things that I argue come out of this. The first one is a famous quote that comes from the Battle of Kollaa, which is, there was a general named Major General Hagenlund who questioned, "Will Kollaa hold?" To which Lieutenant Jutinalin replied, "Kollaa will hold, unless the orders are to run away." And this simple question and response has entered the Finnish lexicon as an expression of perseverance and resolve in the face of impending difficulty or crisis. So there's a Finnish punk band called Kollaa Kesta, which basically is Kollaa will hold, and it's the name of, remaining strong. I would say that not to jump ahead or anything, it would be very similar to like us saying "Remember the Alamo" for surmounting a big difficult decision. Now the other thing about this is the legendary Finnish sniper Simo Haya was basically a soldier on the Kollaa front line, and he was nicknamed the White Death. So he is credited for 505 confirmed kills.
Holy crap! As a sniper?
As a sniper.
Oh boy.
But there are some who say that they might have lowballed it, and it could be as many as 800 kills in total.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah, so I think the White Death is a pretty fitting nickname for this guy.
Was he white or just covered in snow?
Probably both.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think, well, that was the thing, right? Is like the for the looks of it, the Finns would wear white uniforms so they could better blend in with the snow. And it was a whole hell of a lot of guerrilla tactics to push this back. But the Winter War is cool for a couple other reasons as well. So the one thing is that actor Christopher Lee actually helped the Finnish military during the Winter War as kind of like a spy for Great Britain.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, no,
that's nuts.
Christopher Lee is a really cool story. There's in fact a story from the set of Lord of the Rings where when Peter Jackson was giving Saruman Christopher Lee direction of how to sound when he got stabbed, basically Christopher Lee stopped and was like, "No, Peter, that's not what a man sounds like when he gets stabbed. He sounds more like this." And it was based on experience because Christopher Lee probably killed dudes.
And he probably stabbed someone.
Yeah, right?
I mean,
Christopher Lee's rad, and he needs a biopic real quick. But the other big thing about it is there are some who argue that the Winter War might have been responsible for basically like turning the tide, if you will, in a weird way for World War II. Because after the Nazis saw just how poorly the Red Army did against Finland, this tiny little nation, they decided to drop the non-aggression pact and go after the Soviet Union, which have then started to split up his army into a two-front war, which is never a good idea. And they started invading Russia during the height of winter, and Russia also did this whole thing called the scorched earth policy, which was basically they just burned everything in their way, which basically meant that now the troops were not allowed, they couldn't find adequate like shelter or food or anything like that. Basically Russia is so big that a strategy of run and burn during winter is successful enough to basically destroy armies much greater than yours. But anyway, yeah, so that's the Battle of Kollaa, a small part of the Winter War, where a small number of Finnish soldiers were able to basically fight off a very large Soviet army thanks to guerrilla tactics. And the Winter War in general, which is like arguably kind of like a whole war of a last stand where a much smaller military was able to defend and defeat a much larger military force. So, yeah. Any questions?
Damn. I mean, nah, you got it, man. That was fucking crazy.
Yeah, the Winter War is a cool little, like, I mean, let's see. It officially lasted 3 months, 1 week, and 6 days.
So it's like 3 months of just holding out when this giant army is just like trying to like get in there.
Yep, pretty much.
Rough.
And like doing things like, skiing around and using various guerrilla tactics to help out. So yeah.
Neat.
That's that one. It's a neat little story of perseverance and resilience. And as they say in Finland, Kollaa kestää.
Yeah.
I probably said that wrong.
I mean, probably, but
it's gonna be in my lexicon now.
It's on the internet forever now.
And now, since we're done with that, I think it's time we move into the
middle section.
Hey guys, welcome to the middle section.
Yeah.
This is the part of the show where we tell you about all of our social medias and how you can get in there and talk to us about the various things. So, Cody, how can one get in touch with us on the interwebs?
Well, let me tell you. We're on Twitter, guys, at fandomr_podcast. If you want to tweet at us or just watch as Jess puts up just the most ridiculous social media stuff that has been it's so good. I love her to death. She's doing such a good job.
It's great stuff. I
always love when the weekend pops up and I see it and it gives me a good chuckle. So yeah, check out our Twitter. And
yes, do that. It's funny.
Yeah. You can also find if you're looking for something a little more private, say you want to send us a personal message or a dissertation about how
badly I said those words.
Yeah, like just Finnish pronunciation in general. You can get at us at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com.
What?
Yeah, but hey, I get it. You don't want to give your email out. You get so much spam. Who's to say you won't get more? But first, we wouldn't do that to you. That's mean. And
yeah,
I hate the spam emails as much as you do. But if you're still nervous, if you don't believe me with my my silver tongue, you can just go to our website at www.fandomroulette.com and you can find a little bio of all of us. You can also find all of our episodes. And all the way at the bottom, right before our social links, there's a little comment box where you can give your name and or your internet tag, whatever you want to call yourself as, and then a box filled with an area where you can type out your dissertation about Finnish pronunciation. And yeah.
Please let me know. I'm curious. Actually.
Yeah, now I'm just genuinely curious. We're also, if you're looking to just listen to more of our middle sections, just all of the things that we've ever said in the middle section, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud.
Oh my gosh.
And Spotify.
Whoa, those are a lot of different places where you can find our information.
Yeah, we're also on Google Play. Did I say that already?
No, but you said it now, so we're also on Google Play.
We're also on Google Play. And we're always looking to put ourselves on new platforms. So if you want to share us with a friend, check those out.
Yeah.
We're also on the social medias in general. So Twitter's kind of like our big one, but we're also on Tumblr and Instagram and Facebook, all Fandom Roulette with our logo with the glasses and such.
Yes. And also please remember to rate, review, subscribe. I'm going to say this again at the end, but it's always good to say it multiple times.
If you're listening to iTunes or wherever, raise us through the ranks.
Does Google Play have a rate review system?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, okay. Well,
but iTunes does, so definitely rate, review,
subscribe.
Yeah, tell a friend. Anytime you can get other people to listen to our stuff, it helps us. grow,
good stuff.
and hopefully down the road make this a more permanent gig for us instead of in our off time.
Yeah. All right. And is that it? I think
Yeah.
that's it. Whoa. That's so crazy that we're done with the... Alright, hopefully you put in the second middle section.
Because I would just forget one time.
Do you do it at the beginning and the end?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Except the end is in reverse, so it just sounds silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
who did you bring into the studio today?
Who's brought into the studio today?
Yeah.
I'm looking to see they're arriving a little bit late.
Oh, okay. Well, that's... I mean, we told them exactly X o'clock.
Oh, that's weird. Bloop, bloop. Oh, gosh. Oh, there's smoke and explosions. And,
no.
It's a little ball rolled in. Oh, nope. It's Samus. Hi, Samus. The baby. Oh, what's up? How you doing, friend? Do you not know that? Because, like, Metroid Other M, like, Samus becomes baby crazy for some reason? Or no, one of the Metroid games.
The Other M, I think, is what you're talking about, where there's actually, like, a weird story to it, yeah.
Yeah, right? Where it's not just, like, you're on a planet and you blow stuff up.
Yeah, you're not this, like, badass bounty hunter. Now you got this, like, fucking backstory and, like, a semi-love interest, but, like, it fizzled out, maybe? Or what? I don't know. I didn't get that far into the game because I didn't like it.
Yeah, no one did, I don't think.
Yeah. And sorry to those of you who did, and,
It's cool.
Yeah.
I don't think many people did, honestly. What's up, Samus? How you doing today? Bloop. Oh, is bombs the only way you could communicate? She shakes her head no. So you just want to murder? You want to murder? Oh gosh, Cody.
Yeah.
Oh, she's just saved my life actually. Because there was a Metroid right behind me and I never saw it, and she blew it up with her arm cannon. That was really cool.
Dude, don't you dare fuck around with Metroids. Those things are terrifying. They just absorb your body and they turn you into a shriveled husk. You're gonna don't.
She killed it.
Oh well, that's good. Thank you.
And now we're
Samus.
giving each other a high five. And she wants to hear what you're talking about this week. You talking about Metroid?
Unfortunately, no. However, I did just get an email saying that I do have Metroid on the Switch now, because if you are a member of Twitch Prime, I think you get what is it called? The Nintendo Switch like online shit that costs money. I don't know what it's called exactly, but Nintendo Switch has an online service similar to like PlayStation Plus, where if you pay X amount of money a month or a year or whatever, you get access to free games. Well, it's technically not free games because you're buying them. But that aside, they did tell me I had Metroid, which was kind of cool. I was excited about that. But no, I'm not talking about any of that.
Okay.
I'm talking about Enter the Gungeon.
Whoa, that's a crazy name.
It is a crazy name. It's also a crazy game.
Tell me about
this came out, I think its first release, or like its like official worldwide release was April 5th of 2016 on the PC, I believe. But they recently just had a new update, which I felt like was worth mentioning because first off, this game is like, if the title says anything, it is a rogue like dungeon crawler that is like super gun themed. Like, enemies are, some of the enemies are bullets. Your weapons and shit are all different like types of guns. But yeah, a new update just came out with some new characters and a new kind of like end objective to add on to the already super hard game.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with it, it's a dungeon crawler where you take would-be heroes through, the appropriately named halls of the Gungeon. It's a Twitch shooter, so like it's really fast paced. Over like it's kind of Robotron, if you will. It's like a top down perspective, and you can shoot in all directions. And you can flip tables over for cover. You can dodge roll away from incoming bullets. And when I say there's a ton of guns, there's like a ton of guns. Like there's like your standard like normal guns, like pistols and shotguns and M16s or whatever, like all the, aptly named ones. But all the way to the sci-fi like plasma pistol, and then just like weird stuff like the proton pack from Ghostbusters and the balloon gun that literally just shoots balloons.
That what?
Yeah, no, this game is wild. They even have there's a gun that I got last night and it made me really happy. It's just called the Undercase R. And like, when you would draw stick figures as a kid with guns, they would just be like little R's.
Yeah.
That's basically what you have in your hand. And the bullet just says bullet. It's just like bullet, and it like shoots like the letters BULLET at enemies. Like it's so funny.
That's crazy.
First, I guess this all sounds great, but this game's fucking hard as shit. This is like some Dark Souls shit. Like there's tons of enemies to encounter. It's a bullet hell. Some people refer to it as a bullet hell, where like there are just absurd amount of things on screen that you have to kind of dodge and get out of the way, and every enemy has like different attacks. Like some bullets home in on you, some bullets go in like weird arcs that you have to memorize. There are the most silly, absurd bosses, all gun themed, of course.
Sure.
From the Gatling Gull, which is a muscle-bodied crow with a machine gun.
Oh my god.
Yes, it's so good. Like, first it's just a bird with a machine gun on his back, and then he flexes and it's just this big dude body, like, just, all the way to the best name, the Ammoconda, which is just a giant snake that shoots bullets from its segments. It's so good. I love, like, the company who made this, which is escaping me at the moment, I'll put it in later, Dodge, Roll... They named everything like these silly, like they're all bullet themed, they're all gun themed. It's super fun. This is like I said, it's a roguelike where when you die, like you have so much health and it's not a lot. I'll be honest, like I'm not super great at the game. You basically have like 3 hearts, and depending on the type of bullet you get hit by, that's either 1 or 2 hits. So you basically have anywhere up to 3 to 6 hits before you die.
Okay.
And when you die, the game resets. You go back to floor 1. You don't have any of the guns or the progress that you got. The only thing you get is that if you kill bosses on each floor, you get cash that does carry over. And you can use the cash to unlock different guns that'll show up in your game.
Huh.
So that's the sort of progression. There's also some... like other things, like this new update added some new characters.
Okay.
And this game is like super good about kind of just being like, unless you look it up online, of course, like there isn't like an obvious way to track how to unlock all these things. Like you just have to kind of play the game. Like I was watching somebody who found out through somebody else, who found out through somebody else, and this is a spoiler for the first zone. There is a room that spawns in the first floor that's like a fireplace.
Okay.
The first like 10 or 12 times I went through it, didn't think anything of it. But there are water barrels in the room, and if you can kick them into the fire, they'll extinguish the fire, and you can push a secret button that takes you to a secret level with like harder enemies and better loot, I guess.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, this is one of those games where some people love this kind of gameplay, some people hate it, but like, you're supposed to die. Like, you're not going to go into your first time playing this game being like, yeah, I can get all the way to the end, and then like that's it. Like, no, you're going to die over and over and over again, unless you're a savant at these types of games. Which even still, like, you're gonna die. Because there's not a lot of health. But it's cool because if you're good at the game and like you get a lot of that cash money, like it's okay because you just unlocked new guns for your next playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, like I said, there's a ton of different secrets and unlockables. Like there's, like I said, there's the secret level. There are, like the first dungeon level has like a couple of different rotating bosses. Like it's not just the same boss. And they all have like different like things. Like the Gatling gun that I was talking about. Yeah. Like has a machine gun, so it's like rapid fire and just like shoots like just fucking lines of bullets at you. And then occasionally will like jump from one area of the boss arena to another. Whereas the Amoconda has this bigger room, but like it slithers around and bullets just kind of fly out of it. And a lot of the bullet patterns are like the game Snake, where it like takes like those really long lines and then dips and stuff like that. And then segments will drop off the snake, and then those will shoot bullets, and there's a lot of bullets that are flying around. And so like on top of the secret levels, like the rotating bosses for each zone that you go to, there's a bunch of unlockable weapons. There's, as far as I know, 3 or 4 different playable characters that you can unlock by just playing the game.
Okay.
It's super fun. Like it's fairly cheap for a game. I believe it's $20, although future me will edit this. It's $15 in the United States. If I'm wrong.
No, you have to stick with your mistakes.
But the game is super great. The only thing that I would be like kind of aware of I don't think the game really tells you that it's going to be hard. Although you can kind of guess from like just watching like a single bit of gameplay. It's a pretty rough game. It's hard. And if you're expecting to go into that game with like, I'm going to be the fucking best and flex all over these people, you're going to probably be super disappointed. But it's super funny. Like I just love it's done in like a top-down pixel style. Everything is gun themed. There are some really rad guns. Like there's a gun which is just called a shotgun full of hate, and it's a shotgun with like a demon skull or something on it.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it shoots like a shotgun, so it's like sprays bullets, but it also like shoots like acid that like pools on the ground, and if someone walks over it, they'll like get poisoned and take more damage. Like it was wrecking people in a playthrough that I had. They also did quite a few updates. They had a Gungeons and Dragons update where they added some Wizards of the Coast D&D stuff, like the Mind Flayer, which is basically the Mind Flayer, but like throws out mines at you. It's super funny. Like the game's a riot. If you haven't picked it up, I would definitely recommend picking it up, whether it's on sale or not. It's a fairly cheap game. And it'll give you hours of fun because there's so much to collect. And that's
like fun.
Yeah, that is Enter the Gungeon. Do you have any questions?
I'm assuming it's on Steam?
It's on Steam. I believe it's also on Switch and like Xbox and stuff. Like I think you can pretty much get it wherever. It also has a little bit of co-op in it, if memory serves.
It sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
And I like roguelikes even. Yeah, I like roguelikes, so.
Hell yeah.
It sounds like I would have to check it out. Maybe
yeah.
Someday in the future. Always for wife. But anyway. Shall we move on to our last little bit? Oh, wait. Oh gosh.
Oh. It smells like the back of a old fridge.
Oh god.
That hasn't been turned on in years.
It smells like someone left like French onion dip out for too long.
Why is it always food for too long?
Because food for too long smells nasty.
You're not wrong. Guys, this is the Garbage Kid.
Oh man.
This is our small little segment where Joe and I take turns creating NPCs, characters, whether it's for your story, whether it's for your tabletop role-playing game campaign. If you want a silly NPC with probably grade A name, look no further. These are for you to use a gift from Fandom Roulette. And we do this through a magical book from Wizards of the Coast, Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And I know what you're going to say.
What? Does it have everything in it?
It has everything. It keeps like replicating new pages at the bottom.
That's crazy.
Yeah, my book is I actually can't leave my house with the book anymore. We're going to have to get a crane to get it out of the house. Gosh. Yeah, it's pretty rough. So, without further ado, it is my turn this week. So, drum roll, please. Amber Devil Talon.
Ooh, I like it.
The Elf Barbarian.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now you got my attention. I'm curious now.
So, Amber knew who their parents were.
Okay.
And was born at a temple.
All right.
Amber is the youngest of 3 siblings.
Okay.
The Devil Talons grew up with a single father because their mother was imprisoned.
Oh, God. What'd she do?
Unknown. It's up for the viewers to decide.
Yeah, right. It's fanfic.
Yeah. Amber lived a squalid lifestyle, which is just one above wretched, so you can only imagine how good that must be.
Jeepers.
In a rundown shack.
Double jeepers.
Amber had a few close friends and lived an ordinary childhood, or what an ordinary childhood is for somebody who lives in a rundown shack, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they probably still had fun.
Yeah. Amber carries with them an egg-sized stone in the shape of their spirit animal that appeared one day in their pouch.
Okay, cool.
Now, I know there's some things about spirit animal. This is D&D. There is a legitimate spirit of an animal.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that said, Amber sports the symbol of her clan in long patterns across their arms.
Ooh.
Amber believes that magical items bring trouble and never sleeps with a magical item within 10 feet of them.
That's fair.
Amber became a barbarian because they went on a spiritual journey to find themselves, and instead found a spirit animal to guide, protect, and inspire them. See, it all came around. It all fit together.
It did.
Amber is 28 years old.
Okay.
And has had 4 life events leading up to this very moment.
All right.
Amber briefly visited the Feywild.
Oh, shit.
Which is basically the magical realm that exists, like, near us that's, like, super magical and super, like, magic forests and jungle and craziness. Next, they would become a friend of an adventurer.
All right.
They would be accused of extortion, but did not commit the crime, so Amber was found not guilty.
Well, that's comforting.
Finally, Amber would fall in love. It's the one that I seem to roll literally every time I make one of these.
I almost always roll make an enemy of an adventurer.
So, using our patent pending system, we take these garbage kids, put them through the ringer, and ask the tall tale question for your game. Would Amber Devil Talon go into Hot Topic, and would they buy something?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, ever since they got a little bit of extra money.
Oh yeah.
Now that they're adventuring.
Yeah.
They can finally go in and check out those like Sum 41 shirts.
Well, I was thinking Amber specifically would probably get like a Metallica shirt and like cut off the sleeves.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
But like cool and raggedy, not like clean cut. Like she puts.
Oh yeah. No, she like
on there. We're both doing it.
Yeah, they did it with like an axe, not like scissors or
Yeah. And like they would probably also get like a leather cuff band because that shit's cool.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
But then the game mechanics would be like, is that leather? That's armor. And then they wouldn't get their unarmored bonus.
Oh, well, we can throw away mechanics because who needs those, right?
Wow, that's coming from a DM, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, by the way, before we real quick, speaking of throwing away mechanics, did you see that Muppet Born thing I posted?
I didn't read it, but yes, I did see it.
So through a mutual friend, I found a fan made play race called Muppet Born, which I'm definitely going to play like a one shot of at some point.
Nice.
And like I'm going to allow whoever's DMing said one shot to like, even if they don't allow me to do like literally anything that they get, because admittedly there are a couple of things here or there that are a little broken. Like
sure.
I'm like I have to play a Muppet Born Warlock. I have to do it.
Have to.
Because okay, Cody.
Yeah, hit me.
Imagine this where it's like they're getting ready to do like some like big like ritual magic. It's like they get all the candles lit. It's like it's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the Muppets in the Muppet cult tonight. And then like the magic happens and it's terrible and terrifying.
Oh, so good. A cacophony of screams.
Yeah.
And it's like, puppets.
Yep. I'm really so anyway. This season we're talking about monsters. I'm scared.
No, don't be. Because I'm going to tell you how to conquer your fears and build monsters.
Oh, what do you mean by that, Cody?
So, I'm going to preface this with we live in a very golden age of Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games right now.
I agree.
We have Critical Role. We have the Adventure Zone. We have Venture Maidens. We have so many different digital D&D podcasts of people actually playing. Yeah. There are dozens of D&D adventure books and lore and just general Wikipedia, like just heavy about monsters and settings and lore about said monsters. You could even just pick like the more common ones or the ones that like are kind of mainstream and find even more digital content about said monsters.
Well made, well balanced fan made things.
Sure.
Like, it's become like lots of television programs where they literally make fun of D&D instead of just like be like nerds.
Right. I mean, we like I said, D&D and tabletop role playing games have become have come a long way from the satanic scare.
Yeah, dare we say cool?
Oh, I mean, I hope one day that like you're cool if you're playing D&D. So, fingers crossed. So anyways, with that in mind, with this digital age, I challenge you, would-be DMs, to start world building, start creating your own ways that monsters work. I mean, there's so much content out there. There's so many different things that I think it's a good exercise in creativity and world building to flip and like change the typical of monsters for your own game. And I think this is good for a couple different reasons. We'll get into the depths of what I mean about changing or like world building and changing monsters, but like I think it, at least for me, in my personal experience, I am way more engaged when I don't know what that monster can do. Like or if a game is different, like if I go into a vampire hunting game, like there's some certain expectations I already have, you know, sunlight, holy water, that kind of stuff. But what if you jumped into a vampire game where you're in broad daylight and this vamp just comes out of like the fucking alleyway, noms on some hapless bystander, and doesn't get melted. Like, that would be fucking wild,
Whoa.
right?
That would be wild.
So, that said, I think, personally, if you don't agree with me, feel free to send me a comment. But I think it's a fun practice to change the way your players see these creatures. That said,
I like it.
Change the typical. Change, what do you know about? Tell me the first thing you think of when you think of werewolves.
Change at the moon.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, I wrote down one thing: werewolves turning during the full moon. Mm-hmm. And I promise this wasn't like scripted. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let him go and see what he says.
Well, I mean, you go up to 10 people on the street and you ask them, that's probably going to be 9 out of 10 responses.
Yeah, like unless it's like a nerd, like one of us, it's gonna be werewolves turning at the moon. Flip that script. Vampires needing to feed on people. Flip the script. Goblins being small and shitty. Flip the script.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, we talked a little bit about the tabletop role-playing game Vampires the Masquerade.
Yeah.
Where vampires are like this kind of elegant, seedy underside of society, and they got all this kind of like rules and codes of conduct and blah blah blah. And werewolves tend to, even if they are in societies, they tend to run like, kind of like thugs or gangs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What if you flipped it? What if you flipped that? What if vampires were like just like fucking brutes who hide out in shacks and wait for the perfect moment to just like sprint at someone and eat them? Or what if werewolves are in fucking high society and they've got codes of conduct and rules and they have secret, elaborate societies and stuff? Flip it. Flip that script.
Flip that script.
Because like I said, vamps are like kind of almost notorious for being like, elegant, whatever. Sure. What if vamps in your setting were like, I'm thinking something along the lines of like the tank from Left 4 Dead. Like, just like a hulking mess that just wants to eat people. Like, what if that was what vampires were? How crazy would that be? How fun would that be if you were just like out in the woods and fucking hearing thump, thump, thump and just this monster showing up? Crazy.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think another thing is like, for instance, goblins and orcs. Tolkien taught us that they were these nasty creatures who only want to kill and maim people.
Sure.
What if they didn't?
Yeah, it's something I wanted to harp on.
Yeah, what if orcs were the technological powerhouses of your fantasy age? What if they were the ones who had clockwork automatons and zeppelins and shit? Or like, what if goblins are like and granted, this is ripping from my current campaign. What if goblins are naturally super friendly to other people, like to the point of fault?
Oh, wow.
Instead of because they're often either like cowards or just like disgusting, despicable creatures. What if they're just like super friendly?
Yeah.
And they often tend to migrate and like find a place to fit in and stuff like that. And they're just super friendly.
Yeah, I like that.
Devils and demons. Like, how do you flip that script? What if devils aren't the bad guys all the time, right? Like, what if gods and devils are like, the whole heaven and hell thing? What if that's just like heaven's a planet, hell's a planet. They all grew up differently, but they all don't like each other because like of one thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And we just happen to hear the God's word first,
Mm-hmm.
And they flip, and they, throw propaganda. The devils are bad. They're going to get you.
Or, maybe a couple of the powerful devils have like taken over to a point, but like most devils are not cool with what's going on.
Yeah, like you could make like, there's so many things you can flip on like the planar side of things, like devils and demons. In D&D lore, there's this thing called the Blood War, which is like devils are always fighting demons because if the demons ever win, they're going to take over the entire galaxy.
Oh boy, that's not
pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What if you flip that or whatever? You know, like what if you just like, you know, demons were another race of like from another planet, and like all three of them, devils, demons, and angels, you know, they're all just like, you know, like what if it's just like denizens of like Mars, Jupiter, and Neptune, and fucking they just all hate each other because they all have different ideas.
For sure, yeah.
And then the plane that we're in, we're just like in this weird cosmic middle where like they can easily get to us to get to them, kind of a thing.
Yeah. They're fighting
Like,
a proxy war through us.
yeah, like there's so many different ways to change monsters. If you see a monster in the monster manual and you're reading that and you're like, man, like I really like this guy, but I don't like that thing. As a DM, I implore you to change it. In fact, I implore you to change everything. Do it, like, just go bananas, you know?
Nuts.
Go nuts, because I find that changing the norm makes things interesting, you know? Because, like, if I play a campaign and we play, like, our first campaign, Joe and I's first campaign together.
Yeah.
If the second campaign was exactly identical to the last one, it's predictable. It's boring. It's stale, right?
For sure.
So, like, I implore people to world build if they plan to homebrew. Like, of course, there's tons of D&D books. If you don't want to world build, and I'm just like a raving lunatic, that's totally fine. But I think it's super fun. It's super creative, and I mean, Joe, wouldn't you be interested in a game where I told you, all right, you stepped into this town and you noticed that everyone is a hybrid between a wolf and a human.
Yeah, and they were just like really chill about it.
Yeah, and they were just like, oh, hey guys, welcome to fucking Wolfington. I'm Mayor Wolf. I'm a werewolf, and yeah, feel free to stay at the inn, free of charge.
New Wolfington.
New Wolfington. Old Wolfington was bad. I also had this idea, because it always feels like whenever you include vampires and werewolves together, they're always like at each other's throats, like they hate each other, blah, 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 Twilight, you know, that whole thing. What if they were like allies? What if they made their own like super kingdom? Because they all are feeding on the same shit. Yeah. What does that look like? Are vampires like the diplomats that like go out and like usher people to come and basically be food? Because like there's, you know, like vampires, for instance, like can't enter a home without being invited. Wolf doesn't give a shit about that. He could just fucking wolf up, tear through the window, and have that person leave. Yeah, and then the vampire's just like, my food. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, like, as a, you know, I mentioned this last week. I'm reading through like the Dresden Files right now.
Yeah.
Like, he establishes in the second book, there's like 6 different types of like werewolves that you can play around with.
Yeah.
Like, there's Hexenwolves and Lycanthropes and the Loup-Garoop. Like,
Loup-Garoop? Is that what you said?
Loup-Garou. It's the one that it's the one that it's an ancient curse where you do actually turn into a wolf at the full moon.
Gotcha.
All the other ones are variations, so it's like with the Hexenwolf, like there's like an item that you have that you can like kind of control at will. So like,
okay.
And then like the Lycanthrope is like you're basically just like born with like the soul of an animal. And so like with like wolves, like Lycanthropes become more powerful at the full moon, but they never physically change. They just become more aggressive and more wolf-like at the full moon.
Right. And like another cool thing you can do just based on that alone, like you have these stats for like for werewolves, for gnolls, for orcs, for all these kinds of things. Like what does like, you know, like Dresden Files make like 6 versions of vampires, you know, and like they have an entire society based on that mantra. I mean, that's pretty done with the Masquerade stuff, but do that with werewolves, you know?
Yeah. Agreed.
Do it like the Dresden Files. You know, you can do all sorts of stuff with with just what's in the monster manual, you know? Like we've talked about before, building interesting combat encounters. Like take the things that sound cool about like werewolves, but then put them on like a bandit, and all of a sudden you have like a lesser werewolf like cub, you know, like
Yeah.
freshly werewolfed, but doesn't have the same like health pool, so it's not quite as deadly. And you could do a whole campaign around the idea that like you're stuck in werewolf territory and you gotta like either get out or, you know, hunt them down.
Yeah. And if I could have the floor for a minute.
Absolutely, go ahead.
One of the things I really wanted to talk about as well is as you read through as Cody's saying, you know, making things different, I think is a lot of fun, and changing up things in a major way makes for a cool and unique kind of play style and feel of the game as you're playing it. Another thing I liked, I've been thinking about this a lot, especially having gone through Star Trek, a lot of Star Trek. A lot of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So as you're reading through the monster manual, you will see that a lot of the monster races have an alignment, right? And like,
yeah.
it makes a certain degree of sense, right? Just, you know, for maybe you as like the DM, so it's like, you know, perhaps, you know, it's a lawful neutral character, so they won't necessarily attack until a character, you know, breaks the law or something. But I'm not a super fond of like when you're reading through the character or like race backstory. So it's like these characters are evil, like chaotic evil, because like they were created by the, you know, something to be chaotic evil all the time. I'm like, man, a whole race is chaotic evil. That's messed up, right?
That sounds like a load of bull.
And you know, it's I was thinking about this week as sort of like take the Star Trek approach, right? Where there's no race that is inherently good or evil. All races are different. And even the seemingly most benevolent, like, you know, one thing that's been happening in Star Trek Discovery and has kind of been established in other Star Trek things is, you know, everyone always thinks of the Vulcans as this like benevolent, you know, like logical race, but they have people in their factions who think that they're superior to all other races and that they shouldn't be dealing with anyone else, and they're called like logical extremists who will like attack, you know, embassies and things like that. And that's from like the most benevolent race in like Star Trek, basically. Or you have you know, Klingons who don't necessarily want to fight, or you have Cardassians who want to create a more democratic society. Like, you don't, like, you know, when you paint with broad brushes, I don't think that that's quite as fun or as cool or as interesting as creating, you know, a race that has a certain value set, and it could be radically different from your own value set, but that's on you, that's not on them, right?
Right. I mean,
you can have like an actively evil government system.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, personally. The idea of just an entire race or an entire, you know, species of thing is inherently one way or the other just doesn't make sense. You can make broad strokes and be like, yeah, I mean, not, you know, majority of the time, you know, they act like this, but that's not always going to be the case. And even that statement feels a little wrong to say. Like, it's hard to be like, you would have to see it from like the eyes of who's telling it, you know?
Yeah.
And like to be like, unless they're like some crazy extremist or like just straight up racist, like I find it hard pressed to be like, yeah, all orcs are just a bunch of assholes or whatever, you know? Like that seems crazy to me.
And I think the benefit of this is
also don't take that out of context.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. I think the benefit of doing this is it just makes your world in general better. Mainly because if you think about it, like, you know, it messes with your players. So like you said, going into a world of like friendly werewolves, or like going into a town with like technologically advanced orcs who are like, like working, their city is running very efficiently and things like that. And, or, like a demon who really doesn't have any nefarious plans for you or anything like that. Like, it's a demon who just likes to help people.
Man, my name's Mr. Demon, and I really want to help you out.
Yeah, so it's one of those deals where not only are you subverting your character's expectation, you're building a more believable world, I think. And
For
a more
sure.
believable world tends to be a little bit more fun. And honestly, as you're looking around, like the world in general is kind of moving in this direction as well, where you have, it's another culture, and there are those who are good and there are those who are bad. But to suggest that, all orcs or all goblins are evil because they were created by like the goddess of chaos or the god of chaos, it's a little weird,
Yo.
Not to say that you can't do that. It's just that, hey, it makes you question things before you just start jumping and attacking,
Yeah. And it makes for interesting dilemmas that you can set up, like typically, at least in your predisposition goblins, like you couldn't have a scenario as a DM where the party lovingly tries to support a goblin who is going through a midlife crisis. Like that just sounds wild enough on its own, but like you subvert the idea that all goblins are chaotic in nature, and then you can have interesting things like in a campaign I was recently in, we found not a troll, it was a giant. We found a giant who was really sad because his fiance or his partner left him because he was not a good romantic partner. And so we decided that we needed to help him get his romantic partner back by showing that he could be romantic. And it was super silly and it was super fun. And that wouldn't have happened if we had the predisposition that all giants are inherently like, mean and want to kill us.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an important thing to consider as you're writing and developing a world. So,
for sure.
Shall we wrap her up?
You bet.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening to yet another episode of Phantom Roulette.
Yeah.
As always, it's a pleasure to record this for you. We had a great time doing it. We ask that you go back to the middle section to learn a little bit more about our social media. Give us a follow. Give us a shout out. We love to hear from you, and we love to see that it's working. So please remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and all that other good stuff. And signing off for Phantom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.